Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. And then we have Aditya and Adib with us. So we're going to be talking about fact or fiction, how to fight against fake news. So finding sources for a report. So you want to make sure you know what you're researching. And when you do this, you want to be specific and use keywords such as but, and, or not to specify your research. When looking for sources, you want to make sure to use library sources, Google Scholar, and any other peer-referenced journal. And evaluate and ask yourself these questions when you're doing your research. Who wrote the article? Are they biased? Why was the article created? And when was it written or updated? For personal research, fake news is real, and sometimes it can be difficult to distinguish from the real news. So what you want to do to find out if it's fake news or not, you want to check the author, because fake news will tend to not have the author and nor contact information. You want to look at the aesthetics of the website as well, so like the visual. So fake news sites tend to have a lot of advertisements that are everywhere on the page. They also end in .com, .co, or .com.io to make you think they're the real sites. And some fake news sites also use .com, so you just have to be wary of that and actually look at what you're reading. Personal research continued. When you do your research, you want to determine if the news article has a reputable news outlet. This includes checking quotes and the sources of the article. You want to determine what the news article is about and find out articles that are the same topic and use fact checkers. Double checking to see if there are other articles on the same topic that align with your article you found proves that it is real. You also want to check pronunciation, punctuation, spelling, and grammar, because that can um, be a fake news site, because reputable sites do not have spelling, grammar, or punctuation errors. Fake news also tends to be on social media, so anything you see on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or TikTok that could possibly be fake news, check with a reputable news outlet to make sure it is real. And so fact or fiction. So this article right here is fact. It's from Forbes.com. Forbes.com doesn't have many ads. And then this one is fake. It's from abc.com.co. This is not the ABC News outlet header, and there is a bunch of facts that are not real in here, and you can find those are not real through other articles.
So being able to access sources effectively and efficiently is also something we need to keep in mind. We have to be aware that not everyone has equal access to information on the internet, especially because of financial and socioeconomic differences. For example, not everyone can afford access to technology, such as certain devices like phones and computers, or even have internet access or TV. So we need to keep in mind that not everyone has equal ability to own a television or to own a phone, own a computer, or to pay their Wi-Fi bill. So we can't have the same expectations on everyone. We have to acknowledge and recognize the differences that we have in society. And we also have to be aware that there are firewalls and certain websites blocked in certain regions, which disallow certain people from being able to access those websites. For example, there are many videos on YouTube that are country locked, meaning that only people in certain countries can view them and people in other countries can't. Some helpful and valuable online resources require money to access, such as the New York Times, The Atlantic, The Wall Street Journal, The Washington Post, The Economist, etc. So for these publications, you can read like two, three, four articles a month, but then after that, you have to pay a certain fee. And for many people, that's not possible. They can't afford a fee just to read a newspaper every month. And that denies them the access to those very high quality and very valuable publications. Next slide, please. However, there are many high quality publications that are free to access, such as the BBC, the Associated Press, Reuters, The Guardian, Politico, Forbes, Time Magazine, and Business Insider. This is just a handful of websites that are internationally renowned and very credible, and you don't need any kind of money, any kind of payment to access these websites. So these are free to use for all, and I think everyone should have these in the back of their mind because if they ever want to fact check something, these are completely free to use websites that they can consult. Next slide. Don't limit yourself to just newspapers or magazines or other print publications. You can also use podcasts, which are every day becoming more and more popular and widely used. Some of the most valuable and reliable podcasts include the BBC Global News Podcast, The Daily, which is operated by the New York Times, PBS NewsHour, Up First, operated by NPR, NPR News Now, and Pod Save America. So these podcasts are available on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, other places where podcasts are available. And even though sometimes it takes money to make an account, these podcasts you should also consider as reliable resources because they're run by high end and high quality, highly credible organizations. Next slide. Thanks. And we can also help each other, help our friends gain access to such information by creating shared accounts for newspapers and publications that require money so that each of you can contribute a small portion of the overall price. For example, I know I do this with a bunch of my friends. We have shared accounts for some websites like the New York Times so that we don't have to all individually pay the full account, the full payment. We can all just contribute a little amount and then we all have access, almost free access to the New York Times and whatever website that we want to read. Another solution is creating shared Spotify accounts so that everyone can access podcasts, which is a very similar strategy as what I just mentioned, and using and share VPNs that let you bypass firewalls and certain videos and websites blocked in certain regions or countries.
Right. So now that you have found your sources and access them, how would you know if they're fake news or not? The key to that is to ask the right questions. So to ask the right questions, you need to ask them the questions based on all of these criteria. For example, currency. So to know whether a news source is good enough for you or not, you need to know whether the article is recent. Does the date affect the content or context? Some articles shared on media may be older articles, but that can relate to current events but not have current or accurate information. If the article is not recent, the claims may no longer be relevant or have been proven wrong. So, for example, like if you look at an article that looks like it has information relating to the 2020 presidential election, but there may be content in it that's from the 2016 election, or maybe the article itself was written back in 2016. So that's not accurate information for you. So, and that's based on the time at which this article was released. The second criteria is relevance. So is the article relevant? Is it useful? Does it fill your information need? While some articles may appear to be addressing a current topic, you must read past the headline and determine the relevant content of be aware of clickbaits. So clickbaits are usually a big issue when it comes to evaluating your news sources because such articles basically are released just the authors could have like the most amount of clicks because that's what they're based on, that their popularity is based on, and which is why they often put on some swanky headline which is not related to the topic that you want to read about, and the rest of the content of that article is just some filler stuff that doesn't relate to the headline. Third one is authority. So who is the author? Has the author written other articles on the same or similar topic? Have they demonstrated expertise and experience? What's the source? Does it have an agenda or bias? So well known does not always mean authoritative in decisions, and understanding of authority can itself be biased and leave out important voices. So research is needed. The fourth one is accuracy. So, can the content be verified by multiple sources? Is it factual? Are you aware of and do you understand the sources' biases? Be skeptical of articles only appearing in one place that you're unable to. What is the original source of the story? So, this is particularly important with images that are shared widely across social media. And the fifth one is purpose. So, does this article provoke an emotional response? Because the intent of valid news is simply to inform, and while an emotional response to specific information is to be expected, inaccurate news articles are often written for the sole purpose of provoking anger, outrage, fear, happiness, excitement, or the confirmation of one's own beliefs. So, this is just an infographic to show different types of misinformation. So one of them is just satire. So sites like The Onion, which post obvious joke headlines and articles which have no intention of being misleading, but uh, they do have the potential to do so if people do not understand what the purpose of these sites are. Then there's actual misleading content, which is just which can be something that's released purposefully with the intent to mislead. And there's imposter content, which is not copyrighted and it can be released simply to impersonate uh, some other valid news source. There's fabricated content. This content is 100% false and designed to deceive and do harm. False connection, when headlines, visuals, and captions don't match, don't support the context. So, like a clickbait article, for example, there's false context when genuine content is shared with false contextual information, where the content is made out to be something else and not what it actually is. And then there's manipulated content when genuine information or imagery is manipulated simply to deceive. So now that you know how to evaluate your sources, there is uh, you need to get your facts straight, and you can do that by validation. So you can, once you have a news source which you feel is questionable, what you can do about that is to do a quick fact check about it. And there are various websites you can use to conduct fact checks, and these are two of them. And another thing that you can do is a reverse image search, because such fake news articles often use images that are not related to to the actual article and are specifically uh, used simply to mislead people.
Okay. And that is all for our presentation. Thank you for listening and watching.